There's a storm across the valley, the clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum. My name is Priscilla Almquist Olsen, your host, and today is July 14th, 2022. I'm delighted to have two of renowned personages here in the studio today. One I've known since I was a child, Bill Ames, and one I've just known for a few hours, Phoebe Knapp. Phoebe is an artist from Billings, Montana. She came 4 days carting this magnificent sculpture, which now adorns the Ames Free Library and on the outside. Bill, would you tell me a little bit about how this all happened?
Well, I knew Phoebe many years ago through her sister, and who married a very close friend of mine. And so at family events, I got to know Phoebe. Then Phoebe moved to Billings, and I knew that she was an artist and a sculptor and a sculpturer. And long story short, about a year ago, I think it was, I checked her website, as I checked every few years to see what she was up to. And lo and behold, there was a picture in her portfolio of the work that's up at the library now. It's called Tablet, and it was 12 feet high. And the interesting part is that we at the library board have been talking about starting a sculpture garden. You know, we have all that land on the back there, doing something with that. So Uma had come up with this thought. So it was in my mind about sculpture gardens. Then I see on Phoebe's website this sculpture she created called Tablet, which is the name of it. We can refer to it as Tablet. And it was parked in front of the Carnegie Library in Missoula or Bozeman. So I said, my God, this is a moment. That's a library, we're a library, we're looking for sculptures. I mean, how good is that? So that's really where it all started. So I called Phoebe and we started down the road, and here we are.
And here we are. And today was the dedication. Phoebe gave a wonderful talk and gave us a insight into the nature of the sculpture. It represents, well, it's called Tablet, but it represents a book, and the spoken and written word, and the grandeur of all of those words, and in the encouragement of the sculpture to future generations, so that they will be readers like Phoebe and Bill and me. So, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got involved in the profession you're in as an artist and a sculptor, and that you're dealing with such magnificent and huge presentations.
Well, I grew up really in two places, in Princeton, where my father taught, but I was very influenced by my mother's family, specifically my grandfather, who had a wheat farm and a cattle ranch in Montana. So my childhood was spent in two worlds, Princeton in the winter and Montana out in the wheat fields all summer. And so I had this great mix. My mother was an architect and my grandfather was a mechanical engineer. And I always loved to draw and did very well as a child. I went to the Rhode Island School of Design where I studied sculpture. And so the combination of the 3D through my mother's family and, how shall I say, the artistic temperament and scholarly endeavors through my father, and is how I became an artist. And books were very important to me.
And so they are, and so they will be in the future with this wonderful sculpture. So, Bill, how do you see the transformation of the library in the future with more sculptures?
Well, I think there will certainly be a lot of enthusiasm after this installation, because being a tablet, it's emblematic of books and learning and education. And so it's nice to know that Phoebe's work, called Tablet, is right up there with the works of Richardson and St. Gaudens, who did some work in the library too. So it's nice. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but it's nice to have something new to show that we're not just resting on our laurels, so to speak, but we've added to that portfolio of artists in a significant way. I mean, this was a major purchase.
Minimal modernist
Look
in a wonderful 19th century environment.
And we need to thank two people for making this all possible. My mother, Elizabeth Ames, who was on the library board for 50 years. She was secretary for 20 years. And she, in her will, left a nice bequest to the library. And Warren Moffett, who many of you out there know, he was a member of the American Legion with quite a distinguished combat record in World War II, very interested in Veterans Affairs. And he also left a very nice bequest. And I think Lee Williams, of course, who's behind a lot of these, the Eminence Grise up there, probably was very helpful in steering Warren's plans about where to distribute his not-for-profit funds. So that added up to the other side of the deal, which was, creating a memorial for my mother and for Warren Moffett and doing something. So it was a neat fit.
And it's the beginning, possibly, of additional sculptures in the future. One of the interesting things about this morning's dedication at the library and Phoebe's wonderful talk, which, by the way, will be broadcast on ECAT also. You can see that. And she gives a marvelous introduction to the sculpture and a lot of information, particularly about the origin of the 12-foot slabs of walnut wood. Tell us a little bit about those origins.
Well, the wood is special. It's very old, and I was lucky to have a friend in Northern California who was cutting down walnut trees, and these trees were originally planted by the Franciscan friars as they established their missions along the Pacific coast of California. The trees were planted between missions as they made their way north to beyond present-day San Francisco. So this wood was old and magnificent, and I was lucky enough to meet a fellow who gave me an extraordinary cache of walnut to take by flatbed back to Montana. And so I was lucky enough to have this special material, and the tablet is comprised of the jewels in the crown, so to speak, and their heft and length and their whole essence made me want to keep them and not carve into them, but to consider something that would be emblematic with material. And so I came up with the idea of the tablet. And the tablet ties in with the library because I'm very influenced by ancient sites and definitely by the printed word. Mm-hmm. In the beginning was the word, right. Logos. And libraries are, I feel, one of the best repositories for knowledge and for creativity. And what I wanted especially for this sculpture, being off the new children's wing, was to influence the young people and to inspire them to keep reading, because it's all about imagination.
Yes. And so tell me, you've spoken to children in the past, haven't you?
Well, I've given them tours.
Uh-huh. And why have you been doing that? What influence do you feel
Well,
is important?
because of local institutions. They come by my studio, and I've been involved with sculptures in libraries. There's a library in Bozeman, and I was in the first sculpture park there. And then Missoula's art museum was originally a Carnegie library with a modern addition. So,
Now, the fact that the wood that you were so fortunate to get is over 200 years old,
yes.
but it's so well preserved and so beautiful. And
Thank you.
Yes, and you left it in its natural state. No carving, right?
Yes.
And why was that important to you?
I wanted to preserve the integrity of those slabs and those wonderful walnut trees that they were emblematic of.
Phoebe, if I could ask a question, tell us about the 3 copper rings.
How did I do that?
How did you do that?
I was going to ask.
I conceived about the idea, like a spiral notebook in school, and a way of tying these 2 slabs together. And I had to have something that was the right scale with these enormous slabs. So I found a company outside of Salt Lake City in Utah, and they were able to bend this pipe. It's called black iron pipe, and it's obviously a plumber's pipe, and it's better than cast iron because it's less corrosive. And then I had them copper coated and threaded through the slabs.
So perfect proportions. I think
Yes,
that was
proportions are very important to me.
Wasn't too
Being-
small, so you wondered.
Exactly. I wanted a statement
Yeah.
with those slabs.
Well, the whole piece together is a very bold statement, I must say. Don't you agree, Bill?
I do totally, and I think that's what it's about. Because to put a smaller statue in that installation in that space would have gotten sort of lost against the size of the
And
building.
when one enters from the parking lot to the first floor entrance there, one must walk right by it.
Well,
So-
Phoebe,
And it's kind of a columnar accent to the
Yeah.
building. And I wanted it to be integrated into the marvelous campus
well,
of which it's a part.
say how you positioned it. There was this 9x9 square, right? Of
It was
cement.
9 by 7. It
9
wasn't
by
quite
7?
square.
Right. So there was a question of how do you position it for the prime viewer? Do you face it towards the parking area, right? Or do we face it somewhere else? Tell us about
Actually, I faced it towards the people who enter
Right.
the library. And the entrance is now next to the new children's edition, or maybe not so new, but it is an addition to the original Richardson building. And so I positioned it as an open book that people could walk by on their way into
And-
the library.
And I am sure that young and old who come to the library are going to stop in their tracks and take a look at this mighty, mighty and bold sculpture. And Phoebe Knapp of Billings, Montana, formerly of Princeton, New Jersey, with family in Marion.
Yes.
And she's about to go there, and there's going to be a big family party, so we don't want to drag this out any longer, but we want to thank you so much for your magnificent contribution to the future of this wonderful town in which the Ameses have contributed so magnificently over the years. This is one more step, Bill, that you should be proud of too.
Well, it's
Absolutely.
a team
And
effort. Many help out, of course.
Yes.
And I'm delighted and honored
Yeah.
to be here.
Well, we're thrilled about your creation.
Thank
Phoebe.
you,
Trust
Bill.
me.
And I'm honored to have both of you here today.
Thank
And-
you.
And thank you so much, Phoebe. It's been delightful to meet you and to get to know you a little bit better. And Bill, of course, we've known each other since we were skating on Langwater Pond as children.
That's right. That's right.
But anyway,
Thank you again.
Thank you. And
Lovely.
to our listeners, thank you for being with us today. We hope that you've enjoyed this program as much as we have enjoyed presenting it. Until next time, stay well.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming on this
warm, sunny July Thursday. We are here to celebrate the installation of this wonderful statue or sculpture you see before you, the tablet. We have Phoebe Knapp, who is here, along with her husband Paul, and we'll be talking, or she'll be talking to you very short. So we're very pleased to welcome Phoebe here, along, as I've said, with her husband Paul. Drove all the way from Billings. She'll tell you more about that in a minute. And we would like to thank some people first. My mother, Elizabeth Ames, who was on this board for 50 years, and her will left a bequest, funded half of this project. And Warren Moffett, who many of you here know, was a Easton resident, and his family were dedicated patrons of the library. I knew Warren from the American Legion post here. Warren was a veteran of the D-Day invasion, quite an entertaining character, much loved. And of course, we want to thank Avery Lee Williams, who is the eminence grise of a lot of these donations, and I'm sure he had his hand in making sure that Warren was generous to us as well. So thank you, Lee. You're up there watching, I'm sure. So anyhow, enough from me. I'd like to introduce Phoebe. Phoebe, the close connection is she's an old family friend. Her sister Joan is here today, who was married to a very old friend of mine, close friend of mine, Prescott Crocker. So that's the link. And Phoebe, how about over to you?
Okay, thank you, Bill.
You got the mic.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hello. My name is Phoebe Knapp, and I hope you don't mind if I have a little bit of a script. We drove a long way, and so I have to have a few notes. My name is Phoebe Knapp, and I am happy to be here in Northeastern at the Ames Free Library with my sculpture entitled Tablet. And I want to thank everyone here for coming. Let's see. First of all, I want to thank all members of the board for being here, and especially to Uma, the retired executive director. And I owe much to Mrs. Elizabeth Ames, a.k.a. Bunny, who I met many years ago, and we struck up a lovely friendship. She loved to talk about art. And I also, because of Elizabeth, she has made possible, along with Mr. Warren Moffett, the gift of the tablet to this library. Lastly, I want to give a huge shout out to Bill Ames, who has coordinated this extraordinary journey of the tablet from Billings, Montana to northeastern Massachusetts. Yay! Yay! And this sculpture has never been in a better place. And I'm in such eminent company with the H.H. Richardson building behind me and Augustus St. Gaudens inside. So that's terrific. Now, the journey here from Montana has been an epic road trip. We have crossed at least 10 states to reach the oldest free library in the U.S., bringing a sculpture in a U-Haul to accent this wonderful institution. There is an historical journey, too, behind this sculpture. It is made of walnut from Northern California, from trees planted by the Franciscan friars as they made their way from mission to mission. The area was marked by walnut trees. Along the Pacific coast, as they marked their trail, and it became known as the El Camino Real. I don't know whether you're all familiar, but if you've been to California. And it extended northward to just beyond present-day San Francisco. These slabs are from trees that were some of the last along the trail, and they were transported to my studio in Montana via flatbed as we go. Okay. Now, the theme of this sculpture is a giant book. Great books in libraries go back to ancient history. I'm sure all of you have heard of the library at Alexandria circa 285 BC. Think of the Dead Sea Scrolls and other ancient tablets. I'll stand back up again. The importance of books and libraries as repositories for knowledge and ideas will always be here for us. For all you young readers and artists out there, it's all about imagination. I hope this sculpture will inspire you all to keep reading. Thank you very much. Please, field me, give me questions.
So, Phoebe, why is it 12 feet tall?
Well, I'll tell you. These slabs were the jewel in the crown of the cache of Walnut came my way. I spent about 15 years using all the wonderful wood that I had gotten from a woodcutter in Northern California. And these were the special ones, and I saved them. I really didn't want to carve into them. I'm a big carver, but I wanted to retain the integrity of the width and the heft and the length of these beautiful slabs that'll never be seen again. And so I conceived of the idea of threading them together. And this is black iron pipe. It's a plumbing material that is less corrosive than cast iron. And these were dipped into copper and then coated with something that I hope will keep them copper. Hope that'll happen. And so that's how I envisioned the tablet. And I also have a background of books. My father was a scholar, of course, and books were really big in my world, in my life, and a tremendous inspiration. And that's why I emphasize imagination to all the young people here. It's very important. It took me a while, probably close to a year, because I had to realize that I could use those slabs in a new way without adulterating them, which is the way I thought of it. And so I thought of the idea of putting them together. And then I had to figure out how to link them together. And so links, spiral notebook, and I just began going through things at hand that were important. And lo and behold. And then the rings were tough. I had several metalworker friends who fabricated some rings for me, but they were puny. They just weren't right. The scale, it had to be scale-wise. It had to go with those slabs. And so that's when someone came up with plumbing fixtures. And so I was, but I couldn't find anybody in Billings that could bend these to the circumference I needed to thread them through. And I found a company in Utah. Who would have thought? Yes. And I plunged them into a copper bath. There's a company in Billings that copper coated them. Yes. And you can see in the back where the seams are. You can go behind and you can see how I did it, because there's a piece of the circle that comes out. And so I'm so glad that you're enjoying the walnut. I love the fact that it has history. This whole journey of these trees from the coast of California going to Montana.
How long did it take you to get here to go through those
4 days, 10 states. 4 days. And we're pulling a U-Haul trailer. And my husband, Paul, was perfectly marvelous. We negotiated everything, even Chicago. And I think I can name the 10 states, but you can too.
I wasn't there.
Well, let's see. Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, tiny bit of Pennsylvania, on to New York State, and through to Massachusetts.
I do. And you can look at my work. My website is Phoebe Knapp, KNAPP.com. And you can read about my background and whatever you need to know. So thank you very much, all of you, for coming. Please ask me more questions.
Let's give her a great round of applause. Thank you, Phoebe. I think your comment, many excellent comments, but certainly to have this tablet here resonate with the other artists who, whether they're the Olmsteads or the Richardsons or whatever that we've been so blessed with here in Easton, it resonates perfectly with the scale and the sense of presence that we need to sort of teach the next generations about art and the role of art. And as someone at the dinner said last night, he was talking about this, and he said it just makes us all look good, you know, that we have a big piece and we bring it in from Billings and, you know, make a real effort to get it placed, and all you nice people here showed up today. So Phoebe's just invited you all to Montana, so don't forget that. What's
Why these two?
Yes.
Well,
wait. She's been asked, what's the question again?
I said, why specifically these two plants from that particular tree, from that region?
Okay.
That
Why don't you repeat the question?
Emma's question is, why did I do what I did to these particular slabs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I met a woodcutter when I was visiting a friend in San Rafael, and we became immediate friends, and he said, I have a cache of walnut I want you to see. So he took me to his warehouse in San Rafael, and he had this extraordinary cache of wood, and very, very wonderful for me. He said, you're the right sculptor to come along. And he said, we'll load them up on your flatbed trailer and we'll take them back to Montana. So I worked on those enormous cache of walnut. I worked on it for about 15 years, as evidenced on my website. And these, to me, I got the whole tree. The woodcutter, he had a chainsaw on his truck, so he could slab anything. And when he came to these, he said, now these are special, mainly because of the height, the length. Now I got several big chunks you'll see on my website that I went through, but I left these because they were so perfect. And I got the whole log, and part of it, these are the middle two flitches, as they are called by bolt turners. And the outer ones I made into a 6-foot piece tablet too, which is in Houston, Texas. But these were special because they will never exist again in our lifetime. 5-inch thick walnut, 12 foot long. And so I really wanted to. Did you miss the part where I said I didn't want to carve into them because I didn't want to sort of adulterate their marvelous heft. And so I had to conceive of a way I could use them.
And preserve them.
Exactly. And that was a tough one. So it took me a while to come up with a concept. And then after that, it was just a question of, and I was, hoping for kids too, but I want to tell them that really doing art and sculpture is all about solving problems. And so you get an idea, and then you have to carry it through to the end. Yeah, and no matter how tough it is, you have to figure out a way to do it. So that explains.
Well, Phoebe, talk about the weathering, how you coated it with different substances.
Well, of course I'm concerned because it's an organic material. I did get into bronze casting. You'll see on my website I have a piece called Beastie Boys, and it's made of box elder, which is really a crumbly wood that grows along what we call cricks in Montana. And I cast those because they were falling apart. But this is ancient hardwood. I mean, these are 200-year-old slabs, as I explained, that were planted. Yeah. So I feel like they have a lot of time left in them. I also have shown them at the Missoula Art Museum. I've shown them in this particular piece in Denver. I've shown them 4 times, but I was always very grabby, you know, didn't want to really. And then this was the perfect opportunity at this wonderful, wonderful library, free library here. So I was just thrilled. Couldn't have a better home. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I just found it. Oh, you guys are so nice.
Yeah.
I clap for all of you.
So Phoebe, I hope you and Paul will come around next
Well,
time
no,
you're in the East, and
I'll come back
we'll
to
have
see
another
how it's
dinner.
faring.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching, and as Priscilla Almquist would say, have a good afternoon.
Beautiful Walnut live edge table in your house, do you? No. Now, I'll tell you what I do have. I have a lot of girlfriends who